I'm just going to see if there's anything else that might be a little better. I'll try Smooth Max. No, not much different there. And there's the morph is sometimes interesting. I kind of like that, so I might. That's just kind of increased some of the values a little bit. It looks a little bit better, I think. So I just look at it big again. There's an awful lot of this going back and forwards that happens when you're doing things at this kind of scale. Okay, so I'll just save that. One of the things that was going to be a crucial part of this, I'm now going to do. I'm just to add another one in, one out component. I'm going to add one of the derivative components. Now you immediately see what happened there. It created, like basically a kind of a sculptural effect. And the derivative components are really fascinating. And what they do is they kind of add a sort of a lighting component, if you like. They're basically taking the derivative of the slope of the values, and it allows you to change the way that those values are kind of portrayed, so that you get an effect as if the light is coming from a different direction. Now, this particular derivative is there are three of them here that are one in, one out, and I've used the 2D derivative. And the reason I've done this is because I can actually change the lighting direction on this. And so I always make my light come from the top right hand side. I don't know why I do that, but I do. These all have different effects as you go, and you can just kind of wind these in and out. And then there's an offset, which gives you an offset of the values. Usually it can be a lot, or in this case it's not doing very much at all. I want to set this one back to what I moved it from. I could have just gone undo because I didn't let my mouse, but I'm going to, if I hit Option and I hit Oopsie, no, that gives me a different window. If I hit Control and C, I can reset that value to its default. It'll pop back to its default. So if you can reset all the values here by reset all parameters, or as I said, if you just hold down the I did it again. I do these things automatically all the time. I forget the Command key. No, not the Command key. The Control key. I can reset that one to its nominal value, just that one, which is really good. I'm going to, because I just zoomed all the way back in there, I'm using the zoom function here just because it's an easy way of getting around. I'm going to add another keyframe zoomed right in because I think I may need that as well. And one thing that I can see straight away is that this is kind of sitting up a little bit too much, too high on its above the other thing. So I'm going to back it off a little bit. So once again, just holding down the Option key and just small increments. So what I'm doing is I'm just setting that grid pattern back into the other texture a little bit. And once again, we're going to keep on having to do this. This is gone quite dark, you can see here. But that's starting to look, more like a canvas texture, that's for sure. So you can see that there's a little bit of crosshatchy effect going on there. We now have a little bit of lighting effect as well, so it gives a little bit of, it's sitting out a little bit. And it's probably a little too extreme, but we can, by narrowing the values of the differential here, we can actually make that pattern less extreme. I'm not sure that actually did it. There's also another way of doing this as well, but for the moment I won't bother about that. So that's a good place to be, I guess, for for this stage of things. So we're in black and white, of course. We're still in black and white. We're just dealing with luminance values. So I'm going to do a little trick that I like to do here, and so I'm adding an RGB component. I can take that black and white stream and I can make it into an RGB stream. by adding a 3 in 3 out component. And what it's doing is it's actually going to just feed the, and I just, by the way, just command clicked on that to add those, to connect all those together. It's actually feeding the black and white, just the values, the luminance values essentially, to the RGB tile. So, which is a three out tile will always be an RGB tile. It's got 3 values coming out of it: red, green, and blue. It still looks black and white because they're all level at this stage. There's no variation in the 3 outputs, but so they're all on their nominal value. But if I was to take the scale of X and just push it up a little bit, this is the red, that's the RGB, because there are 3 of them, and this is just a scale component, so it's only just scaling the values coming out, but at the moment it's scaling them all equally. If I make it scale the red value a tiny bit more than everything else, you'll see everything will go slightly red. Just to prove to you that that's what's happening. Just a bit slow for some reason, probably because I'm recording a video. This is the second value, which is green, so if I push that up it'll go green, and if I push the blue one up it'll go blue. There you go, RGB. That's what's coming out of that tile. So I'm hoping to make this a kind of like a canvas kind of color, which I would think in my brain is a sort of an off-whitey sort of thing. I'm also going to add another component here to this because I want to be able to control the color a little bit more accurately. So I'm just going to mix a little bit of the red and a little bit of the green. A bit more of the red maybe. It's sort of a brown color. Look at that full screen. Still quite dark, but we'll fix that in a bit. I also think I've sort of lost the weave a bit, so I'm just going to bring it up just a tiny bit. That might be a little bit better. And I'm just going to now wind up. This component that I just put in here, by the way, this is called color shift component. I like it because it's got a few things it can do at the same time. It can shift the hue, so I can actually change the hue of what's coming out of the RGB component. That won't work unless there's a value that's not nominal coming out of there. So if I left those all white, the hue would do nothing. So it's got a hue, it's got lightness and darkness, so you can make it darker or lighter. I'll just make it a lot lighter. And it's also got a saturation control, so I can change the saturation. So I like that component because it gives me 3 really useful things at the same time. There are other components you can put on there to change the colors in various ways, and you'll see Eric uses different things for different times. In fact, I don't think he uses this one a lot. But anyway, I just like that one because it kind of makes sense to me. So let's just have a look again full screen, see how we're looking now. That's pretty good. I mean, it's got a kind of a texture. You can kind of see it looks a little bit like it's got canvasy texture going for it. I'm going to add another component to it because one thing that I have noticed is that we've got a lot of light and shade going on here. It's like there's too much black in the black bits. There are probably a number of ways I could actually address that, but I'm going to try to see what happens if I use the contrast control. I need to set the contrast to 0. So it's back to where we were. Oh, by the way, I did that if I click on that, I will actually get the numerical values of the parameter sliders, and sometimes it's really useful to be able to do that. I want to take this down here actually. What I'm doing is actually trying to reduce the contrast between the background and the foreground. It's really hard to tell with this, but we have to look at it in a okay. So that's getting closer to what I'm hoping to do. We're actually getting here it's looking lighter, there's less contrast, it looks like some kind of, canvas surface, possibly still a little contrasty, but that might not be a problem when we come to do what we want to do. Just looking at it there, I'm just going to try and reduce the amplitude of the noise again. So let's go really close in. I'm just going to take the noise amplitude down a little bit more. Ooh, we're going negative there. I'll go negative. That's a very fine balance, isn't it? That's just... Yeah, so what's happened is the noise is now receded in its amplitude to beyond where the... I think I've brought this one up a little bit too far. Can you see what's going on there? I want this to sort of disappear a little bit into the texture. I don't want it to be sitting too much by itself. It's not too bad, actually. That's not too bad at all. Okay, so let's save it at that point. And then, of course, one of the most crucial things we need to do is to see whether this works with an image, because we want to be able to put an image on top of this and make it look as if it's actually been painted on canvas. So I'm going to add another branch here, and I'll just it's hitting the B key again, but I'm going to bring it across the other side because I just want to, you'll see in a sec what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to make this a 2 in 3 out, and I'm going to put an image in there. I actually want that to hold an image, and you saw that I had an image there earlier on, and it's that one. It's the woman with the red scarf. Public domain image there that I'm using. I'm going to combine these two streams of the tree now, so you can't see the image yet because we haven't actually mixed it with this. So what I need to do, of course, is to mix these two. These are now two, because I created, this is now turned into an RGB stream because it's got color in it. This is an RGB stream because you can see it's got 3 outputs. So I have to mix 2 RGB streams together. And the way I do that is I add 2 pack components, one on each. So a pack component just takes the 3 streams of red, green, blue and mixes them together in one. So they're still RGB, they're just a mixed stream. And I add another one here. Oopsie. Now, you see, I tried to add one there and it wouldn't let me do it because the tree's now expanded so much there's no room at the bottom. So I need to compress the tree, and to do that I hit the C key. I've got some space up there, and that'll give me some space to put in another component down here at the bottom. I can also, I think I wasn't using that for anything, so I'll just take that one out as well and just compress it a little bit more. I want to add my pack component here. Just typing the P key to do that, by the way. And I want one more component below because I want to mix those two together. So I'm going to make this, I could make this a 2 in 3 out because I'm just mixing 2 RGB streams to one further stream. But I'm going to do it with a 3 in 3 out because there's a little trick that I like, and I'm going to use that trick here. You see that it's all connected all over the shop at the moment, so now I have to connect it properly. So I'm going to just, while that's selected, I will now command click on there. Oopsie, no, I won't do that. I'll do it by hitting Option Command because it's not going to connect it correctly. So I want the left hand one connected. I don't want that one connect. Oops, so I'll just disconnect that one. Come on, we like that. And now I want to connect these remaining 2 together to this. Ew, that's really ugly. But that's okay. I don't expect it to be very good just yet. I'm going to change this component to I think I'll use this one. So what's going on here is that we've got one stream with the picture. It's being mixed with the other stream, which is the canvas. And I want to mix it in such a way that the values of the canvas, which are the lighter values, just kind of pick up the values of the photograph. And I've used a trick that Eric sometimes does here, where we're using a component to take to feed two values, the two bottom values, and then the photograph is just feeding the top value. So for a start, what we're going to do is we'll just get rid of those two values, and then we'll make this one feel like a picture. Okay, so that's just a picture, and if we look at it at full screen, we're just going to see this as the picture that I put in there. That's exactly how I expect it to look. Now what I want to do is I'm going to add a little bit of the canvas texture. Now this gets to the point where you kind of start to use a bit of discretion here to see how this works. So you can see how it's picking up there. In fact, that looked pretty good. We've got a little bit of the texture coming through. It looks a little bit like, the texture is actually picking up the right bits. There's a bit of the texture has got a little bit of its own light as well, which is good, and it's having an effect on the image. So that's not too bad. So let's just go a little bit further here. It's a bit more extreme. What's happening here is it's putting in level B, which level B is actually level B and level C are both the canvas texture, but I'm adding level B here, and then I'm multiplying it by level C, and that's something that you wouldn't immediately think of doing, but just because I've been working with it a lot, I know this trick, and it's a really cool trick, so I'm just using it. And there you go. I don't know whether you can see it on this QuickTime video, but that looks pretty damn good. That looks like an image that's kind of got a canvas texture on it, or an image that's on top of a canvas texture. So so there we go. I mean, that's pretty much how I did that. I hope that there is enough information in there for you to understand and follow all of that, and I hope that I didn't kind of just skip over things that you wanted to know, but you can always put questions in the bottom here and I will explain things further. Thanks for listening. Bye.